Okay, well, we've had a very lively, passionate, and important discussion about oil and gas, and now I think we want to switch focus to the challenges of extracting and utilizing minerals in the Arctic, and particularly we're going to be talking about offshore extraction. But I think we need a bit of background, so I'm going to ask several of you to just explain to me what your particular businesses do. So, Jan, do you want to start by explaining what LKAB is all about?
Yes, LKB is a company that has been operating in the Arctic for the past 129 years. We operate the largest underground iron ore mines in Kiruna and Malmberget, and we also have operations in Svappavaara. We transport all these iron ore to the Norwegian side, to Narvik, for export mainly to Europe, Middle East, and United States.
No, that's so I'm just making a big connection with the wonderful panelist we met yesterday, who lives in Kiruna and is responsible for moving the town because it's basically been destroyed by the underground mining.
Not destroyed, it's urban transformation. We construct a new, lovely city.
So let's just get this. Kiruna town is being evacuated and they're creating a new town because the underground mine now goes directly under the town center.
That's correct.
Okay, but that's obviously not destruction, that's positive in your view. But are you paying for the relocation of Kiruna?
Of course.
Yeah.
We have a legislation in Sweden that says that actually we act as an insurance company.
But you must have had a very good insurance policy.
Yeah, you can say so. No, actually, we are paying for all the damages. We have the impact on this town's both on all stakeholders. So we replace the buildings, the infrastructure, roads, railroads that we impact on.
Right. Are you involved in your company in offshore?
No.
Do you have a long-term vision that might be something you move into?
Yeah, I think so. We had heard earlier that mineral and metals will be keys for, you can say, transformation of society. We both see the transformation in energy system. I strongly believe that fossil will be somewhat of a dinosaur going forward. We see renewable energies, we see new systems of energy. We talk about fuel cells, batteries, whatever. That needs a lot of more and different metals than we use today. Also, if we go into the IT revolution, we see the needs of especially real earth metals elements. We see increased use of metals. The deposits on land is what you can say the major deposits is roughly well known today, and it will be a matter of profitability. When will the mining on land not be competitive in mining offshore?
Right.
But I think it could take time.
Right. Well, we'll explore that some more. But Frode, you're also new to the conversation, and again, I know Leonard Nilsson is a big company, but I'm not entirely sure what you do. So why don't you begin by telling us that?
We are a contractor and also a mining company. We are owning 3 mines, one iron ore mine here in Norway, Mo i Rana, one graphite mine in Skaland, and we also owner of a ruby mine on Greenland.
Sorry, what mine?
Ruby.
Ruby, you mean the jewel, gemstone?
Yes, that's correct.
Ah.
And we have been doing projects in the whole of Norway, the Faroe Islands, Iceland, Spitsbergen, Chile, Hong Kong, and we have been in Antarctica since 2004. Wow. So we are specialized for working under tough weather conditions. And we think we have a special competence for doing that.
And again, are you all onshore at the moment?
Yes.
Yeah, and again, as we've discussed, and as Anna and actually Ingrid as well, we're talking about potential vast reserves offshore. Are you looking at those?
Not at the moment. I think if we are looking 20, 30 years in the future, maybe we will have a look, but that will be not by me, maybe my children.
Well, that's something for them to look forward to, I guess, yeah. Right, well, let me then go to Ingrid, if I may, because Ingrid, you seemed in your presentation to be extremely enthusiastic about getting into offshore mineral extraction as soon as possible. I mean, I guess there's some of it happening already, but very limited. But you see vast potential, do you?
Well, I'm a scientist, and I think that it's a very exciting science and possibility. But I think also we need the knowledge and the competence around this, and this takes time to build. I think also it takes time to build this industry, and it calls for a lot of new technology, not only in exploration, but all in operations, and also bringing the minerals to shore, and how we're going to do that. We are developing a lot of remote operations and autonomous systems now for the oil and gas industry. And I think this will also be interesting technology and important technology if we are going to explore this possibility. But I think we need to build this knowledge competence now. And
But I mean,
it will take time.
Yeah, and when you say we need the science, I mean, obviously the science includes the science of just how delicate the ecosystems are
part of it.
under the water, and how, I don't know if you've, I just remember seeing a BBC News report a while ago, actually I think it was in the Pacific, about an Australian company that is pioneering work with these massive underwater rock-crunching monstrous diggers that just plow out huge amounts of rock, which, you know, and then it has to be sorted and sifted to find what they believe to be the rare minerals inside. But, you know, on a vast scale, sort of destroying huge areas of seafloor. Is this something that you envisage for the Arctic?
This, if we do this kind of extraction of minerals subsea, it will change the seabed forever. So of course it will have an impact. So you need very thorough science and investigation about the impact on the environment and the life. So we don't know the answer to this right now.
Well, Anna, I think perhaps we can bring you in here, because I know from my visit to Greenland you have enormous mineral resources, some of which you absolutely have mapped out, some of which, frankly, you're still discovering. And offshore, the potential is vast. But when we have this conversation about, you know, yes, seabeds are changed forever, delicate ecosystems are disrupted in ways that are barely imaginable right now, is this something you can look forward to with enthusiasm and confidence that it's part of a sustainable plan? Oh, and by the way, you'd like to speak in Danish. Yeah, right. So everybody who doesn't want to listen in Danish but would like to listen in English, like me, do make use of your headsets. Go on, Anna, sorry.
Ja. Først, jeg vil gerne sige tak til arrangørerne, at jeg kan tale på mit andet sprog. Mit andet sprog, der er jeg mere tryg med, og også hvad mit ordforråd er større på mit andet sprog end mit tredje sprog. Vi i Grønland, vi er lidt anderledes stillet, fordi vi lever med og af naturen. Vores børnesøjle, det er fiskeri, og det er vores hovedindkomst i vores land. Derfor stiller vi os meget miljømæssige restriktioner. Grønland er et eksempel på, at der kræver smarte løsninger i Arktis. Vi sætter internationale høje standarder, hvis vi skal udvinde, om det så er onshore eller offshore. Men havbundsundersøgelser, det er ikke sket endnu. Vi har udfordringer, klimatiske udfordringer. Vi har isfjeld og islæggelse om vinteren, som gør, at det ikke er aktuelt endnu for os.
No, interesting. But I imagine climate change and the warming of the Arctic and the greater melt of the sea ice. This is attracting or making more viable mining than it's ever been before. And I imagine you're getting more international companies coming to Greenland and offering to work with you and desiring to explore than ever before. So you've got to decide how many of them you're going to work with, how many you're going to encourage, how many you think might be pushing to a dangerous level where you may be disrupting the environmental balance.
Men regeringen i Grønland sætter naturen meget højt, fordi vi skal beskytte den natur, som vi lever af. Vi kan ikke bare på kort sigt give tilladelser til eventuelle forureninger af vores natur, når vi nu lever af det.
So right now, in terms of the Greenland economy, how important are minerals? If you can describe it in terms of, your overall economic performance and in terms of jobs as well. How important is the mineral sector, the mining sector?
Selvfølgelig er det meget vigtigt, fordi som du også sagde før, vi har stigende interesse fra internationale investorer, der gerne vil investere i råstoffer offshore og onshore på Grønland. Men ligesom alle andre lande, der skal vi også udvikle landet til gavn for vores befolkning. Og vores natur, det skal vi også beskytte, når vi lever af naturen, naturen.
But just again, from my limited knowledge of Greenland, there are lots of people with strong opinions about, for example, the dangers of bringing in too many workers from outside Greenland to work in the mines and the associated industries, because frankly, you have such a small indigenous population, very proud of its history, proud of its achievements, but it's not a population that can possibly service and provide the employees for these scale of businesses. So you are going to completely change the character of Greenland if you become a major mining nation. How are you going to figure that out?
Jamen, ligesom Norge også sagde, vi har stadigvæk brug for
And said,
udfrakommende arbejde.
of course, we need people from the outside, as we do in Norway, workers from the outside, from other countries. We need that, especially in remote areas, to say it, put it in that way.
Norway, because Norway is not a huge country, but it's a substantial country. But in Greenland, we're talking about a population in the tens of thousands of Greenlanders. So you can quite easily imagine a situation where the majority of people in Greenland, if you went down this route of becoming a major mining nation, the majority of your residents would be outsiders working in this heavy industry. Is that a future that you want?
Jamen, som jeg også sagde, Grønland har tilsluttet sig.
We use the best available environmental practice, best available technology systems when it comes to developing our country as our country, because we have a right as a country to develop as we want to develop,
På vej mod selvstændighed.
to get also our independence, full independence.
Selvfølgelig er vi
Of course,
i Grønland også klar.
in Greenland we know that we need more people from the outside to come to us and work in Greenland. We know that we have that. I hope that but I hope that we will continue to be a majority. There are about 50,000 inhabitants in Greenland, indigenous people, and I hope that this will be the case also many years to come, that we will be in majority. We, of course, have to also develop our country. That is, on the other hand, we have to develop our countries, but we should never compromise with the environment. That is also important.
It is a very challenging issue, I can see that, and then to bring it to the Trump's region here in northern Norway, obviously the situation is slightly different. It's not quite like Greenland in terms of the sparse population. But do you see issues here with encouraging heavy industry, particularly extractive mining industries, into this region, and the questions about what kind of jobs are available, who do they go to, what does it really do to local communities?
Absolutely, and I think the most pressing thing for the mineral industry now is the use of the areas, and who's going to use the areas. And we have many interest parts that want to be part of the discussion, and that we should invite into this debate. But as I also say, I mean, this illustrates quite big the big the two-sided issue that we face now. With the green shift, there is a growing demand of the minerals, but also we need to take care of how we do that. And of course, we have to take this very stepwise. It's like small steps, and knowledge base is very important for us. And of course, by doing that, we also make sure that people are invited into the process. And in our region, with the 3 northernmost counties, we're working on now a mineral strategy. In fact, to be a bit ahead of these different debates that will come up.
Where does public opinion sit? I remember, again, I'm not, a constant visitor to the Arctic, but I've been to some areas in the high north, and I went to Alaska, and I covered a story about a huge controversy in Alaska about the prospective development of a mine. It was called the Pebble Mine, and it was going to be a massive investment. A lot of overseas money was involved, but in the end, it was blocked. It was blocked by groups of local people, including, crucially, I think, fishermen, who feared that it was going to pollute the waters of Bristol Bay, which was crucial for the salmon run and for the fishing industry there. So that was local opinion mattered, and it became a huge planning issue. Yep. What happens here when?
No, and that is of course a big challenge. We see that every day with all the industries that we have the seafood industry faces the same, the tourism faces the same, and the mineral or future mineral industry will also face the same. But we do have to include the different parts into that discussion, and I think absolutely it can happen that the other interests are so big and important that you decide we're not going to go further with this.
Are there any examples in your region that you can think of where that's happened?
Yeah, well, if you see the seafood industry, we have had we have for many years now worked on what we call the sea kystzone, which is aerial development for where the municipalities are going to set the areas for seafood industry, and in that, on the rounds that we've been going, several of the areas were not opened for the seafood industry, just because there were other interests.
Right.
Of course.
I'm going to open it up in just a moment. We've got two. Oh, well, go on then, Ingrid.
I just wanted to add one comment to what you said, because the minerals are on 3,000 meters depth and there is no fish.
No, but that's
there.
the offshore.
Yeah, that's the offshore.
But I'm talking about the onshore for the moment. We
right.
We haven't actually included the offshore mineral in our strategy.
No, but anyway, even if there's no fish, it doesn't mean that there's not a really important ecosystem.
No, of course there's a very important, because you have these black smokers, which are warm sources, where the minerals are coming up from the crust and inner part of the earth. And then you have the cold smokers.
Yeah.
So it's the cold areas where there's less life that are...
that you like the look of for prospective mining. Okay. 2 miners on the panel. So very quickly, mining gentlemen. Are you mindful of the power of public opinion in the high north, even if you're often working in areas of very sparse population? Do you really take account of what people want?
Of course, it's important for us, as environmental permitting is, I would say, the most important thing for mining operations, both in the Arctic and I would say major parts of the world. And really important is what population close to the mines is thinking about and accept about mining. And as a result of what we are doing now in Kiruna, working with urban transformation, we do a sort of survey each second, third years. And we have extremely good acceptance, almost North Korean numbers of acceptance. Yeah, but everybody knows that we talk about 85% that actually accept.
Given that you've mined under their homes and all these cracks have appeared and now they've got to move, that is pretty extraordinary.
But we have to accept mining and the impact on environment is something that actually engage people. And that's not necessarily those who is living closest to the mine.
Yeah.
And they have, of course, a right, all stakeholders has a right to have an opinion about mining. But what I think is really the challenge, both on mining on land and offshore, is how to make it predictable.
Yeah.
How can you establish the best way of mining minimal environmental and climate impact and get it predictable?
Well, just a final thought then before we go to questions, and that is about carbon emissions, because Miles was very strong in challenging the oil and gas industry on future carbon targets and how their activities could be squared with what the world needs in terms of decarbonization. You guys obviously are not a fossil fuel industry, but nonetheless you're a very heavy industry, which is very, I imagine, very carbon intensive.
Yeah, but if you see our company, we have two major pilot projects. One is we work with the steel mill producer SSAB and the power producer Vattenfall. We have a huge project where we develop technology for carbon dioxide-free steel making and also carbon dioxide-free mining, where we look into the next generation of pelletization plant, how to replace fossil fuels of today, oil and coal, with something that don't emit carbon dioxide.
Can you have zero emissions mining?
Yes.
You can?
And
can you,
the other pilot project...
Is he doing something better than you? Or,
yeah, but just let me explain. We're also working on the mine side. We work with 4 global, major global companies, ABB, Epiroc, and Volvo, to do the same. We are working with autonomous mining, autonomous mobile equipment, but carbon dioxide free, without combustion engine. So we actually now invest a lot of money together with a number of global players in developing carbon dioxide free mining.
Yes, and we are doing almost the same. We are looking into it,
this is a Me Too moment.
Yes, yeah, more or less. But of course, it's very important for us as well to be carbon free, and we are looking to electrifying a lot of our equipment, and I think 5 to 10 years, all of our equipment will be electrified.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. Okay. But I can't turn to you first because your hand always goes up first. We're going to go over here. But I may come back to you, but let's get this gentleman first.
Hi, I'm Peter Windsor. I'm the director of the Arctic program for World Wildlife Fund. I thought the name of this conference was the Smart Arctic, and I'm a little confused listening to the last 2 panels, especially when you talk about mining nearshore and deep mining. As you know, in the Arctic, the ecosystem is a bottom-up ecosystem. It's controlled by benthic organisms that cascade up the food chain, up to iconic things like walrus and others. So how do you reconcile that you will mine in areas that we know are some of the most fragile areas in the world?
Yeah, well, we've broached that before, but Ingrid, now is a very direct question, and you from the podium made the case for it, so how can you justify it?
Well, to be honest, we don't have the complete answer yet. In the black zone, black smoker areas that are cold, there is little life from what we have observed. But this needs to be investigated a lot more, and you're completely right, that is an issue, and we need to look into it, and we are looking into it. So, but there is no clear answer. We can't answer yes or no right now. We need more time. But we are fully aware of it.
Right. So basically, when you talk about the riches that lie in the seabed around the Arctic region, it is very possible we'll never ever want our sustainability responsibilities, our planetary responsibilities may well ensure that they're never extracted. You would accept that?
If I will accept that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the logic of what you're saying. You're saying we don't know and we accept the ecosystems are hugely delicate and important.
We're doing several things in parallel. Looking at the environment aspect, but at the same time also looking at the possibility to make this into a business. We have to do several things in parallel because the science and the investigation takes time. So it's the same we did when we investigated where we wanted to extract oil and gas. So we're doing things in parallel. And if it has a too large environmental impact, it's not sustainable.
Yeah, I guess the question then is who's making the call?
But we don't know this yet. So this is what is exciting.
Do we have faith that the judgments made will be in the best interests of the
We need to have the industry
planet?
on board, and we need to have the scientists on board, and we need to do this in a collective way. And also you guys from WWF and to investigate this possibility. Because the world will need minerals.
Yeah, well,
If we are going
we're here to lay out challenges and difficult subjects,
Yeah.
and here we're in the middle of one.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, the gentleman there.
Thank you. I'm the German ambassador to Norway, and sorry, forgive me if I have to jump back to the CCS thing once more, because the question remained a bit unanswered, why doesn't it kick off? As we said, no, there was obviously some consensus that the technology, at least to store it, is there, and that little Norway can't do it alone. So from a German perspective, about 10 years ago, we had a serious discussion about CCS in Germany, because when all these projects in Norway already unfolded, Mongstad, gas-fired power plant and things. Why didn't it happen? It's not in the public discussion. There were two main reasons, not because it never took off. One was that environmental policymakers and environmental political activists have a hard time to swallow that this is a technology that would extend the lifespan of CO2 emitting industry. So it's not transition to renewables, but it would in a way help the CO2 emitting industry to live longer, which is a very hard time to accept that. And the other thing is probably a more specific German issue, if you want to call it. It has to do with German angst. What happens if these things get pressed down into the ground? Is it safe there, or what does it happen? Will there be earthquakes?
Sure.
Will it come out and lay on the ground 2 meters thick and all the people around will suffocate? So it's a very irrational thing, but that was one of the main reasons why it never took off. Irrational, really, or surprising, because 80,000 people go to the Berlin Olympic Stadium, where underneath this Olympic Stadium, at least when Bayern Munich is playing there, where underneath this Olympic Stadium is one of the largest natural gas emergency reserves in the world. So this is...
No, I hear you, and thank you for giving us that sort of perspective from Germany. We're out of time, technically speaking. I don't know if there's one person with a very brief... all right, very quick. I love the way you stick your arm up so incredibly enthusiastically, but it's got to be really brief, because we're out of time.
Yes, it's a question on Greenland. I want to know if you, at the end, you give the license for the uranium mining, and if yes, why you decided to go mining uranium, that is very dangerous, and you can talk about smart technologies, but it's still uranium and it's risky for the people. And it has been suggested that it's because you really want to be economically independent, and so Greenland takes risk for that. Can you comment on this? Thank you.
Okay, Anna, you got that. So uranium mining.
Ja, tak.
Thank you. We have not, in fact, started the uranium mining as a byproduct. We will try not to be a uranium nation. We would not like to be that. We have, yes, some resources, that is true. and we are also want to discuss these resources. Should we use them or not in order to get our independence? And of course, it is very essential for the government and for the country as such that we are committed to the highest international standards when it comes to mining of raw materials.
Okay, well, that conversation perhaps can continue later if you both desire it, but we do have to end now, ladies and gentlemen, because we've reached that moment where we all pause for a cup of tea in my case, or a cup of coffee in some people's cases. We are back here in half an hour to discuss Arctic seaways. So I shall see you then, but enjoy a quick break, and do give a very warm thank you to our panel. Thank you very much. Hey.